outs, and in the end of at the end of the session, a couple of probably hours or 24 hours later, we should be having the YouTube video relating everything that was said and done. So publicly, I guess everyone is okay with that. And sometimes we will also be requesting that we have a family photo. Everyone will come on board and, stuff. So that will be fine. So today we are starting with two introductory notes of 3 minutes each. I think that one of our communications person, Laura Sunjo, will be very keen on time. The first prelude person to present the prelude will be Tamfomi Ike, and we will have 4 minutes for Tamfomi Ike to globally tell us what he thinks about this topic. And thereafter, we will have Dr. Ibong Fabian. But in the meantime, I would like to present to you the communications or the crew of today. We have Comfort from the UK. We have Tashi Tawe Nelson from Cameroon. And we have Laura Sinju. Those are the persons to handle this session as much as the Anchor crew is concerned. So I will briefly call, without any ado, on Tamfomi EK to tell us in 4 minutes, give us a prelude of this topic. Thereafter, I'll call on Dr. Fabian, 4 minutes as well. Then I will introduce and hand the microphone to the Anchor crew. Thank you. Over to you, Tamfomi Ike.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody who is on call today. This is another opportunity that we have to be together again to learn. And I am also very excited to have these exchanges that will take place today. I presuppose it will be something that I will tap from. This topic is very crucial, as we already know, because we have seen a lot of things concerning title, award, and titleship. Now, I will be here, since I have 4 minutes, I will only raise the dust that you will try and struggle to settle in the time that you will be discussing here. And so I think that is the only thing I can do in 4 minutes. Now, raising of dust will come in form of questions or ponderings. Now, number one is that this issue of title awards, if the fund can do and undo in our culture, what space or authority do we have to discuss on something that seems to be a closed subject, that the fund can simply say something and it happens, or he can simply say, I don't want it, and it will happen. So where are we? How can we discuss as if we can moderate what royalty can dictate simply? Number two, these titles concern traditionalists. Are traditionalists so knowledgeable that they don't have any space to learn anymore? That's the question we can ask. Because in discussing, we have exchanges, and in exchanges, we learn from each other. Is learning or knowledge closed such that traditionalists cannot tap knowledge, even from without the traditional system? Number three, where are these titles popping from? There is a mushroom of titles that we are viewing. The question is, some are even old that we can understand. Some are new that we can understand. But some are relatively unheard of. So where are they coming from? And why now? Number four question is, with village autonomy, talking about village autonomy, should a village not have their own way of doing their things and having their titles given as they wish, given that they do not depend on either clans or the entirety of Mbum as a community? Is it not something that a village can decide and we just see and accept? Number 5, where is the definitive traditional code? The definitive traditional code, by definitive traditional code, I mean some people need a reference. Where are we getting, when we say a title is this, where are we referring from? Apart from the fact that we have norms, traditional norms, how do we refer to something that is passed down orally and maybe behaviorally? So where is the traditional code? Some people are requesting that as something that we can refer to when we do traverse this very complex terrain of award of titles. Number 6, can a title be bought and sold? In other words, subject to the laws of demand and supply. Are titles commercialized? That is what we are looking at. We will be discussing and trying to settle that dust. Number 7 is that in the whole system of award and receiving of traditional titles, are traditionally seeking to preserve something. What exactly are they seeking to preserve? How are they going to preserve? Do they know exhaustively, or do they know what to preserve? So these are kind of questions that we will ponder today. And I believe that most of the people, speakers who will be talking, will be trying to erase the fog that is on this topic of awarded of titles, of traditional titles, and the motivations. Thank you. I wish you a better discussion. I will be involved in the course of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom, for me, Ike. We'll call on Dr. Fabian to, he has 3 to 4 minutes. Over to you, Dr. Fabian.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present on traditional titles in Mbumland. I want to confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can, 5 on 5.
Thank you. So I only have about 5 minutes to talk on this. What drove me to start collecting data on traditional titles, case in point, USA, was the talk that Onwang titles and Bunjabi that kept coming up, but there was no data to support that. So I asked the question, under Onwang title, under Ishu Kapn Bunjabana, and Onwang Banjo, okay, what is the drive? So I started collecting some data, which I'm going to show you here, and this is just for United States. So far, as of this morning, March 22nd, 2025, at 9 a.m. Sorry, I made a typo in the time. It should be 9 a.m. There are 79 title holders that I am aware in the United States. Or for out of these 79 title holders, if you are looking at my screen, you can see a breakdown of the type of titles. And clearly, you can see that Manjo, there are 11 Manjo in the United States. There are 18 Tamfomis in the United States, and there are 19 Tashe in the United States. You can also see clearly that there is only one Mangiri in the United States, because the other people would prefer that they refer to them as Marche. You can also see that there is just one Tan Lucy in United States and only two Tanto.
Please, I'm
So
pleading with the moderation.
why
Can
is
you
there a
mute everybody, please? Moderation, please.
So the question now is that why is there a surge in some titles and some are not really being considered? What is driving this? Is it that some titles are more important, or it is because of the role that they need to play in the society that are more important? How many term forms are needed to moderate a foot lodge? And if so, must a term for me be associated with a foot lodge? So if you have a term for me and you don't have a foot lodge, what is the point, for example? So essentially the question I'm asking here, what is the role of each title and where do they play them? So this is just part of the data that I started collecting since January 10, 2025 in United States. The next screen I will show you is a breakdown of which fund is awarding these titles. So when we start saying that there is this spraying of titles, we can now start pinpointing that, okay, this title was awarded by this fund. And rightly so, because funds traditionally have the right to award titles. They are the rightful people, but they are not the only people. I think, for example, a foot lodge can decide to award a title to somebody in that foot lodge. And note that these titles have been awarded over the years. I'm collecting data on that, which fund awarded which title and what year. So there may be a situation where your title was awarded back in Cameroon, but you moved to United States. So now you are in United States and I'm collecting data in United States. So I need to include you in that data. So we can see clearly how those titles are getting spread depending on the fund. I have another screen, which I'm not going to present here, how the titles have surged when a fund visits the United States. And the question I'm asking myself is why? Is it that when funds visit the United States, they want to spread the titles, or there is a need for that? So I only have 5 minutes. These are some of the questions that in the course of collecting this data and talking with different people and listening to them, they are asking that why is there a surge in specific titles like Tam for Me, Tashe, and Manjo? This is in United States. How many Tam for Me's, for example, are needed to moderate in foot lodge? Is that what used to obtain as far as Ndila is concerned? Because growing up, we used to hear maybe just one Tam for me in a village or in a quarter, but now they are everywhere almost. So what is causing that? How can we moderate it? Then is there really a need for new titles? Because the trend we are seeing is that taking into consideration the title of Tam for Me, there are now extensions. You have to be Tam for Me Samba, Tam for Me Bari, Tam for Me America, Tam for Me Mbomo, something before it makes sense. Making the Tam for Me titleship almost like it's common now, but we know how important. And Tam for Me, please forgive me that I keep using Tam for Me as example. This applies to other titles as well. Another trend that we are seeing is what I'm referring to as digitalized or mail-in titles. Because we have seen trends where somebody will be in America and before you know it, they just present their sample that this was mailed to me. Is this how we are going? Or maybe there is an envelope that this was mailed to me. When you open it, it is that, okay, we have given these people or this person time for me or something. Or
You have 1 more minute, doctor.
I'm wrapping up. Then there is also another trend that people are saying, oh, my own title is more important because maybe it was awarded by a clan head, or there were 10 funds during the award, or something, specific things. And these are things that we need to take into consideration. We are also seeing a trend of multiple titles in a household. Maybe you could have a Tam for Me then the brother is a Tashe or Tatamfo, then the mother is a Manjo, and the daughter is a Mashe, and the son is, you know, a Tamjong, all in the same household. Is there a conflict there? So the final question is that how can these titles across Mbumland be controlled or moderated or even revoked in the case that they are misused? So in the course of this discussion and future research on this, I think this is where we can be going. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ebong, Fabian, for this prelude. We are just getting into the core of the topic itself. I would like to very briefly introduce some of our panelists. We do actually have Tamfomi Ndiango. Tamfomi Ndiango studied in the University of Boya. He studied languages. He's a linguist and have taught English in several institutions of repute. And that was about 1994 when he actually brought in his skills in the area of Mfu and influenced the Mfu of Boya, that of Mponsamba. And he was present at the inauguration of the Mfu Oyomabang in Yaoundé as like pioneer persons that impacted Mfu. As a matter of fact, in the US, he electrified them full of DMV, which sparked through the US. And if I keep telling you what he's done in terms of culture, you know, like incarnate of our culture, we will get to tomorrow. So let me stop at that point. We have Tamfomi Joe Bashi, who is from Binka and is based in Europe. Just to mention, it's Tamfomi Dr. Joe Bashi, and who's another panelist of ours this afternoon. Then we have Tamfomi Get Edison, Tamfo, who is based in Cameroon, and he's a resource person in project management in different fields as well, and works with the Ministry of Economy and Planification, I suppose. We will be privileged to have our father too, Tamfo Quirong. While waiting for him, we will call on the main anchor persons, notably Comfort and Tawe Nelson, to take over. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. We are pleased to have had the preludes. We've been able to have the introduction of the panelists. And of course, we are delighted to have this kind of very sensitive topic that comes up. You all know my name is Tashe Nelson Tawe. This is a sensitive topic because we know that from the preludes, we have a lot of work to do. So now, what do we do with, because actually the preludes have set the stage. They have told us, they've just exposed Ambogila, then so how do we handle all these questions that have been raised? And I'm sure that our panelists this afternoon, this evening, will be delving into this very sensitive issue so that we can at least pave the way forward for the award of titles and exactly how they are done in our setup, that is in the Mbumland. I don't know if Comfort has something to say, but I think that that sets the stage. So Comfort, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Uncle Nelson. All protocols duly respected. I really am honored to be part of this whole project, I would call it, because it's not as easy as it might look. And I think the preludes, like you rightly said, before I go ahead, I'm Comfort Confor, and I'm based here in the United Kingdom. Yes, the preludes, I really do appreciate the presentation by Dr. Ebong, and his accompanying comments are very telling, and talking less of the questions that were raised by Tamfomi Ike, which I suppose everybody agrees with me are not rhetorical questions. So we are here tonight. It's not going to be an easy evening for us because these questions, they definitely request answers. And we are looking forward to whatever is coming, be it in the form of debate or pitching opinions and facts. We hope that at the end of it all, we should have something as a piece to take home and maybe preserve for posterity. Over to you, Uncle Nelson.
So we may need to have, I don't know if we are ready for the first speaker.
Yes,
If
I
we
think so.
are, then, yes, so we give the floor to the first speaker. I think the first speaker should be Dr. Tangfomi Jobashi. Please, over to you.
Bere si ya yanje, bere ni si ambo, si avu, afe si ni. Avu ne si di ambo, tun la chi u lulu si, aku ngombum. Si abadi u haba andimbo, iba bongse. Abanjo di si akabala ni si bidi andimbo bimo, itawi u yaba njinji. Mmeme ka mbila ko fanda wa. Abayu chi si abadi andimbo, mtesi ta, obo yu. Njodi mdahane ituran chobata mitaga. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present on this very important topic. It seems to be an academic discussion, but I want to tell us that this topic should not end at the level of an academic discussion because it is rotting in the very foundation of our society. I want to present why our funds do confer titles to people and why the motivations behind some of those titles being received. But at the same time, I want to point out at the end that some of these titles, you cannot question the funds why they confer them to our citizens or subjects. First of all, I want to point out that the Mbumland society has two major systems, the governance system and the religious system, which are yoked together. In fact, they work in synergy. One cannot be separated from the other as compared to the modern governance in our countries where you have religions apart, governance apart. So this already shows us that there is no way we can avoid some of those titles because they are what build up the system. So within these two major systems, the religion and the religious and the governance, we have subsystems. These subsystems are manned or led by delegates who are appointed by our funds. And they operate, as I said earlier, in synergy. Our funds are mandated, in fact, spiritually, divine, and also by our society to appoint some of these subjects, some of these people in these titles. Now, they are sacred societies most of the time, and when I talk of this governance and religious, they're sacred societies, and they have their peculiarities. When you hear, for example, Tashe, many people will know that there is a Tashe. They might not know that there is a Tashe Ngiri and there is a Tashe Vu, and that there are peculiar duties that they carry out. And this is a discussion for another day. But I wanted to point out the fact that this system is so built that it is difficult to say we can avoid one of them that are built together. But before we go into that, we'll look at the various titles that are awarded in Mbumland. And those titles will tell us through them whether the motivation, the reasons of this title being conferred. We talk, for example, of hereditary titles or inheritance, which you call T. This is something within the family, which was, is, and shall be. So You'll have, for example, a family which has a Tanto Onwaro that goes from generation to generation. Then you have the meritorious titles. Merit, where you talk of the Shui in Limbum, where someone has done some work and deserves to be a crown, to be offered this title. We're going to look at it in detail later. You have the portfolio. This is the title, where you have, for example, recently Mfu was installed in Europe by the Fund of Mbot, and automatically you need to create the titles of Mfu, the title for Mfu, because there is that portfolio which needs to be covered to make the Mfu run. And consequently, you have Tangwang, Tawei, and the rest, which are supposed to come under the portfolio titles. Then you have the honorary title, which we call Mbumi in Limbo. The honorary title, for example, people who save the community in one capacity or the other. We could have president, for example, has been saving for long, and we think that he's been doing some good to the community. And then we give him we offer him a Tagwe title. That is Mbumi. So these 4 titles are the type of titles we have. And I am going to try to look at the motivations from the point of the funds who confer these titles. The first title, for example, I talk of the inheritance title. This, we don't need any motivation because it is there. The motivation is that it is traditionally accepted that this title has to be carried out in this family. That's automatically, the fund has to do that without looking into any motivation. The T. Now, the other motivation of funds conferring titles to people could be recognition of work done. If somebody does something so well, the fund can recognize him by giving this title. In the olden days, it was killing a tiger, it was killing a buffalo, or going to the war and bringing the head of an enemy. Today, we have different things that we can do and get these titles. For example, someone goes for Olympics and brings a gold medal. He goes for the Mount Cameroon and wins the Mount Cameroon race. We saw one of our sons from Kungi in Yaoundé. He was the best goalkeeper in Cameroon. So such titles, such recognition could be done through the fund as a son bringing something and they give a title, or confess a title. The funds might be motivated to set an example by conferring a title to someone. That's one of the reasons why motivations. Someone has done something so good, and the fund decides that I'm going to set an example by giving him this title. This will motivate others to think that if they do the same thing, they will also get a title. And that person is also going to be motivated. And another thing is compensation. Our funds think at one point that they need to compensate somebody for doing so much good work. I'm thinking of somebody who goes and does some hunting and brings in a buffalo to the fund, and the fund, in the olden days, they will give you not only a title like Mfomi, they will also give you some kind of warring armors, or they can give you a special spear from the palace. They can give you even bullets to go, and that is compensation for what you've done. Finally, one of the motivations of our funds, which we don't say this, but we observe it, is to display and exercise power. Imagine our fund Tankwi as trying to confer the title of Tam for me to Tam for me Taki, Dr. Milton Taba in the US. We saw the royalty around it. We saw the exercise of power. We saw how the whole world was watching. That is power, and that could be another motivation. But besides this, now let's look at the recipient. What motivates a recipient to receive a title? One of the things that a recipient could happily receive a title for is the acknowledgement for work done. You do work to a community, you save a community.
For me, you should be rounding up, please.
Yes.
Your time.
Anyway,
Yes,
we will come back to that anyway. The motivation could be just accepting that you've done some work and you need to be crowned by the community, and you accept the title. Some could be, one of the reasons could be just power. Some people want power, they want respect, and others take it as a challenge. You know what it means by getting a term for me, actually these days. Any development society in the community, they call time for me to contribute, the quota. So some take it as a responsibility to do more. Finally, some are looking for political appointments. Some use the titles to look for political positions, and this is the negative part of it. And some of those things which the questions which were raised, you could see why some of those titles now are becoming negative. Anyway, no time to maybe say why we cannot question our funds for conferring this title, but I want to point out this fact that our funds have a whole system, as I pointed from the beginning. It's a whole system that works in synergy. And people are conferred titles not because a fund just sits down and gets up and confers the title. When you get a fund conferring a title, it's been worked through the subsystems, it's been worked through the spiritual realm where they meet. It's been worked, for example, I just take a little example of these days. Our funds are now requested to go through the ministry to get their document, to get something to be recognized. One of the sons of the soil or the daughters decides to use their connection, their money, and goes through and work those things out and get the papers through. That is not something you're going to announce to the public, and you cannot question the fund for conferring a title to such person. Unfortunately, I might not have much time to develop what I had in mind, but thank you for listening, and we hope that we have time to answer some of those questions. Barry, we say.
I think that time for me, Doctor. You had one last point which I think was very important. Can you just take on that? We'll give you another extra 1 or 2 minutes, please, because what you're saying is very important. Please just bear with us and have time for me, Dr. Bashi. Please just round up with what you were saying. Please, this is exceptional.
Yes. When I was talking of the fact that our funds have the divine power, our funds have the royal powers, I have the communal power, they have the spiritual powers to confer these titles. And according to our tradition, you dare not ask your phone questions for titles conferred on people. We dare not do it, and it is clear. Do it, and then you'll see the consequences. But understand that there are checks and balances within the system that can control the funds, which we don't need to question them because they have, for example, I want to pick an example of a fund that commits some of those crimes against the land where he rules. He cannot pour libation. That's one of those things. He cannot pour libation, and by not doing it, it's limiting his powers. It's limiting his powers. The powers are taken over by some other person within the land to pour the libations. So the system questions our funds. We cannot dare question them. That's what I wanted to point out. There's much I could say about that, but unfortunately, time is not giving us that laxity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that was very important, Dr. Tampomi Bashi. That's very interesting, and I think the heat is just building up. We want to plead that for those who have questions, keep your questions coming. You can send them through the chat box. We have somebody who collects the questions, and the person will read out these questions, and those who have intervened or those who have ideas would come up with answers when the time is appropriate. Thank you very much once more, Dr. Tamfomi Bashi. We'll move on to the next speaker, who is
moderator. Thank you so much. The title term for me is more important than doctor, so we would prefer even that it comes first, or it does. The doctor doesn't appear at all, but the term for me comes on, because this is
Okay, done for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Thank you. I think I'll try to apply it to the rest of the doctors who are term for me, or who are title holders. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next speaker. That would be time for me, Ndi Ango. Time for me, Tapsio. Time for me, Ndi Ango. We're waiting for you.
He is muted. Maybe someone should try to help him unmute himself. Or...
He can
He's
unmute.
muted. We'll wait for him to come on. But as Comfort, what was your impression about Time for Me Bashi's presentation before Time for Me Ango comes up?
Yeah, I think it was very revealing, because I never knew the differences between the inherited and the titles given by the honorary titles and all of those things. And I think I'm looking forward to what is still hiding in there, because today is that day we have to dig right deep and get it all out. Meanwhile, I have a quick appeal, guys. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. So if we can, if it's possible, let's do well to be on camera, because this is not a child's play here. We are going to go public with this. The whole world will see us. Let's just show some form of professionalism if we can. And maybe with no disrespect, so that's not how we want to portray ourselves out there. If you are not properly dressed up, please don't be on camera. Thank you. Hope that the next speaker is ready to speak.
Yes, I see. Time for me. Time for me. It's ready.
Yes. Very mechani wi bonbon. Tapsini ya farfaya amunjisa maybe ning boga. Gabantini mening. Just back to my introduction. I wanted to add that I also earned a master's degree in peace and conflict resolution from the University of Baltimore since 2015. If Dr. Ibon can post those questions again in the chat box. But here's the thing that I want to share regarding the proliferation of titles. First, I am happy. I remember that when I was conferred a title, I was just a teenager from high school. And it became difficult for me to date because girls were running away from me that when I can go Barbie, things like that. So when people started accepting titles and I saw the titles were becoming fashionable, I was happy. I was like, oh, so I have others like me. Now, why are these titles proliferating? One of the first factors is something we have no control over, which is that we have multiple villages. I knew of 33, now there are 34 villages. And each fund has the power to confer titles. You know, some villages have quarters. Let's take, for example, Nkambe has the Nkambe Center, and then there's Binju that has Info Lodge there, even Ngiri Lodge there, and there's Info in Mo, there's Info in Jema, and these lodges can confer titles. Now, because we have so many funds and they travel and go places, we refer to them as lions. And if you watch lions very well, lions go around and leave their marks. They dig their claws into the soil and leave their scent marks. They leave their marks. They urinate on trees, to leave their marks. That's what our fawns do when they give those titles. Time for me, but she referred to it as their show of power. It is, I interpret it as further as a show of their presence. They're leaving their marks. That's what the fawns do. They're like lions. The other thing about the proliferation of titles is that values have changed. And for me, title used to be very rare because it had a high bar. You ought to have been to war and returned with a human head to be for me. So the bar was very high. It was not easy to reach that bar, talk less of crossing it. Now wars, you know, inter-village wars, inter-tribal wars, you know, they went away. And values have changed. People, the funds are looking at other achievements. Within folk titles, I'm very passionate about folk, you know. Within folk titles, there are three sources. There are three sources within folk titles, three sources. There are folk titles that come from hunting. There are two major titles that come from hunting. Comfort is a title. That's the first person who speared, who dealt the first blow, spear on a leopard or a buffalo. That's Comfort. Now, the second person to deal a blow, a spear into the same animal is Corner. So these ones came from hunting. Now, values have changed and there is little hunting. And even if we have to go hunting, it is not easy to find a leopard or a lion or a buffalo. So the funds are transferring these values, these titles to other values that you've gone to school, for example, you've earned a PhD and they know how much what it took for you to earn it. And it's like you hunted and brought back a quote unquote leopard in the form of a PhD. In another village, maybe you are the first to have a bachelor's degree and they can give you a comfort or even a for me, you know. So values have changed. These are the dynamics. These are the things that influence these titles today. For me, came from war. Konang and comfort came from hunting. But then there are others that came from community service. When you hear Lantang, they call it Lantang, but the people in the Winti area, we just call it Ntang. Bantang. Ntang means what? Ntang means, I mean, the master planner, you know. So you have Ntang, you have Talusi. Talusi is an animator, the life of the party. You have Lagam, who is the singer, the lead singer, who has the voice that goes, you know. So those are the different titles. Now, if you are not a good singer, you're not an animator, but you achieve something, the funds will give you a title. They can choose to give you a title. So I was saying this to say that values, it is because values have changed that we are seeing this proliferation of titles. Now, why do some titles proliferate more than others? And why? I think Dr. Ibon asked this question. I've been asking myself why, but you know, sometimes I just tell myself that maybe some are more fashionable. Maybe more people want to have folk titles because folk is present all over. And if you're a Tanto, it's limited to we cannot have one outside of Mbumland. That should never happen. You know, maybe I'm just thinking. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say is that when
you have 3 more minutes for me, Django.
How many minutes?
3 more minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that before they confer a title, they do research. I think somebody said this. Time for me, Bashi said this. They do research, they do findings, and see whether that title is in your family as an inheritance. If it is, they will look for a different one and give you. You know, they don't want to double down. And that background work can go on without you knowing. They will do that. That's one level. They will also look at your morality. Are there question marks on you? There are certain laws in our tradition that are very close to the laws of the Old Testament: adultery, etc., jealousy, sabotage. They look at all of those things. Maybe they're not doing it now, but that is typically how they go about it. So I may have a chance to speak again, but these are the things that I wanted to highlight as far as these title things are, these title issues are concerned. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Time for me. Oops. All right.
Diango.
I apologize. My laptop is almost going off because it's not charged. All right, I'm good to go now. Thank you. Thank you so much, Time for me, Diango. I really do appreciate your presentation. I can't see Uncle Nelson, but I know he's somewhere around. So I would like, I know that most of the things you have said, you agree, or they were in line with what Time for me, Joe Bashir already said. I would appreciate it if every presenter makes an effort to, you are doing that already, but a bit more is requested to answer some of the questions and the allegations that were raised during the 2 preludes, because that's where the education is coming from. That's what people would like to know. And at this point, we would like to hear from Time for me, Edison. Welcome.
Time for me 10.
Time for me 10, right.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. Could it be he's struggling to unmute? I've asked you to unmute. Time for me 10. I've just asked you to unmute, so you need to click to unmute. He's all right. There he is. Welcome. Is possible now? Bami camera le. Is that possible, please? Would really appreciate that. He's muted again. I've just asked you to unmute. Okay, now it's not done. We would really appreciate if most people, especially the speakers and the panelists, would be on camera. Would love to have that. Thank you. Time for me 10. Are you there? You know, there he is.
Larry, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes, 515.
Can you hear me?
We would like to see you as well. Yes, 515, please.
Right, you can hear me. It's going to be difficult for you to see me because I'm right in Du, and we have a host of issues. I am just from conducting the elections of the Mbumland Funds Union, and we now have a new president-elect who is the paramount fund of Mbot. I do apologize for my lateness, but I am really sorry because I thought this was going to come maybe earlier. That notwithstanding, the topic of today is one of the things that, or one of the preoccupations of the Mbumland funds. It was on their agenda and they discussed it. There is a problem, the proliferation of titles or the careless award of titles. That notwithstanding, I quote down from Kwingaru, who said, "Akabimu mwana ko chikanin wena vakir bimo ka ayubasi muke akobimu anale," which means the funds who are awarding those titles have the right, and they are doing that and connaissance the cause, as we will want to say. It's true that we are talking about proliferation of titles because maybe We are seeing those titles more or less on social media, but when you come back home, you don't feel the impact of a traditional title with respect to Mfo, Njo, Ngwarong, or Ngiri. So the funds are always right, as we know, and you cannot dispute what the fund has done. The award of traditional titles today out of Mbumland is coming as a result of, you know, the proliferation of, or the expansion of Mbumland, where we have Wimbum communities living out of Mbumland. And they are doing that in order to make sure that the culture is promoted wherever Mbum people live. I do not think there is anything wrong with the funds awarding titles out of Mbumland, or we have control over the number of titles that a fund has to award. The Mbum culture and tradition does not give the fund a limit to the number of titles that he has to award. Instead, when you are awarded a title and you do not want to work well with the title, you do not want to honor the dignity of that title, it can be retrieved from you. The funds are not exempted from this. If you have been crowned a fund and you are not working well, in certain circumstances, the Ngwarong can retrieve the title from you. So the award of titles and the procedure or the processes that follow the award of titles have been well defined from time immemorial, and if there is a fund that will not honor it, he may not have to answer to us, but to the ancestors. That notwithstanding, one of the issues we discussed, the funds discussed in the WIFO, Wimbum Funds Union today, which are overhead, is for funds to be careful with the way they award titles. You will not award a title to somebody's son whom you don't know very well. So before you award a title to somebody's son, if you are from village A, for you to award a title to a son of village B, you must make sure that you have done your groundwork to know that that title can be awarded. In other words, the funds are supposed to be talking amongst themselves when it comes to the award of title. That was discussed, and it was resolved that henceforth, before a title is awarded, the funds have to concert and talk, because you will not meet somebody's son for the first time without knowing him, and then you award a title. The funds are always right in their award, but there are certain procedures or steps that have to be followed before the title is awarded. I just want to give this introduction, and I want to salute fellow members of panel, and I do apologize for coming late. I have many things on my hands, but I'm following up. If you do not see my image, it's because I'm not stable. And I will make everything possible before 8 p.m. you will see my image. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks so much, Tam for me 10. That is how I understand, or I think he is called. Tam for me, Tam for Edison Nge. Tam for me 10. You're welcome. Thanks a lot. I would like to call on someone to introduce our fund to speak, and this person is none other than Marshe Mary Awudu. Over to you to introduce our fund while waiting. Marshe Mary Awudu, you're welcome to introduce our fund to the platform and to have this mic. Thank you.
Barae. Ngwechifie. Homba, hamba. Homba, hamba. Homba. Homba, sitimbete, bete. Homba, hamba. Very. Ngwechifi, barae imbume. Ngwechifie, ovule bombo. Very. Mindamna.
All right. Let me make sure. Okay. Berry me chane. I want to mashe awudu manju. Mero apologize the organizers. Mbalo after some urgent call this morning. After Mendaba listening conference I was on. So my Google rush back and then I'm sorry. And I'm sure that you guys will forgive me for that. All right, the traditional titles in the Mbumland. If I want to talk about traditional title, the first thing I would like to say is that there has been some interest in these titles as compared to the past. The question is, why this sudden interest? And that interest has led to what we call the proliferation of titles. So the next thing I want to say is, do we still follow the criteria that our forefathers used to have in selecting the candidate that will benefit from these titles? Do we respect those titles that are given to us? So what I want to say is that in the past, there was some sacredness. Titles were sacred. That's why once somebody was made a Phi or a Fon or a Maya, you can never touch that person. Because the person is already at the level where he or she intercedes with the ancestors. Even some shades, as we're saying, you have some powerful shades that are respected more than some of the Phis in some villages. It is because of the institution that they incarnate, the titles that they carry on them. So if we talk of proliferation, because the fingers most often go at the fonts. Why do our fonts just give titles without due verification or background, without some background investigation on the candidate? One of the reasons, to me, is because we, as Mbum people, have abandoned our palaces, our fonts, to fend for themselves. That is why some fonts, when they go to somewhere and somebody treats them well, give them a good treat, or somebody who takes care of them, they just give a title. Because we celebrate the fonts when they are crowned, everybody is happy, everybody celebrates them. But after that, we just go away. And we only come back to celebrate the next font. We only come back to celebrate the next font. Or we wait until that font will pass on to glory. before we come to fix the palace. So what do you expect from somebody that you have placed at the helm of your village, who doesn't have a job, or who had a job and then you ask him to resign? He does not have a source of support, a source of income. You do not even care to call that phone. You don't even stop at the palace to greet him when you are visiting your village. But what we see, but what you see are the weaknesses in that phone. So what I'm saying that one of the causes of this proliferation is just the neglect by the population, because most often the population is pointing fingers at the phone. So the people, let me put it that way. So if we want things to move the way we want, we should also accept our responsibility. And that responsibility is making sure that we support those funds. We support the people who incarnate the very institutions that have been given to them. And then one of the reasons for this proliferation is because, let's not forget, we are the largest ethnic group. The Mbumland community is growing. We cannot expect that if we had 5 title holders in the past, we cannot expect that those people will remain. So as we are growing, there is also need for expansion, and that the way we are growing, we can also notice that in the number of titles that are given out to people. So I want to think that, or what I'm saying is that we should support our palaces if we want the funds to behave the way we want. And we should also note that the palaces or the titles are increasing because we are also growing. And what we should ask our fund or suggest to them is that they should be very meticulous in the choice of candidate. They should be selective. There should be a criteria. There should be some background investigation before a candidate is chosen. And even when you are given the title, you must jealously protect it. Jealously. There's a title in the Northwest called one Tumfon. Everybody wants to become Tumfon. Why? Because the first person that the funds of the Northwest recognize as in Tumfon jealously protected and projected that title. I mean Tumfon Nico Hale. The way he carried the title, the way he carried himself, the way he projected the title of the Tumfon, everybody today wants to be in Tumfon. So if you want to be a Shea, you want to be informed, you want to be a Maya or whoever, you must make sure you carry yourself in the way that Mbumland people would like. You must be someone who will proudly project himself as a woman. Protect that institution that has been given to you, or that title. Let people envy you. Let people see the strength in what has been conferred on you. And titleship, I know, is given to males and females. Because sometimes men, let me put it this way, we have men sit and debate on the titles that are given to women. Why are we doing that? Why should men try to determine what is good for the women? Or challenge what has been given to them? It is not correct, it is wrong. Because even when the phone sat at me and said, okay, we are going to cancel the title of Mashi, I think we have more important things to discuss than to be. I mean, when you give out something, how do you sit and say, no, I want to take it back. So I'm one of those who disagree with that decision. That because even in so, you know that in so people are so attached to their tradition. We have women shares. In so we have seen a woman play the mother drum, the mbanka. But we know that women don't get into the force. So we must know that we are also evolving. We must know that once something is given out, you cannot just sit and say, I'm canceling it. Why are you canceling it? What is the reason behind that? Because we must accept that there are some of our women who are so powerful. There are some of our women who have done great things that we have to honor them. I'm not saying that we should honor them by violating the tradition, but if our forefathers have been doing something and today we sit and we want to challenge it, we want to replace it, or want to cancel it, we must ask ourselves, what has happened that we want to replace it? Don't just because we are men and we think that we are male chauvinist and we feel that women are women, we have to just cancel what has been the recognition that was given to them. That's not correct. So we will have to protect what we have. The funds, they have to do more in terms of background investigation before these titles are given out. We will have to support our funds if we don't want them to proliferate, to just give these titles to whoever. We want to limit the proliferation of these titles. We also have to protect, those of us, or those of you who have these titles, jealously protect them, project them. Why would you be informing or Itache and you hear that your funds are down there and then you are running away from them? You don't go to encourage them, to support them, even if you don't have anything. So our Wimbledonness is imbibed in our tradition, which we must jealously protect. And title holders are the people who project our culture. And let me say one thing. Sometimes we look at those who give these titles and we blame them. But there are some title holders that are tomorrow, some of them behave like the funds. I have been in occasion where some shares came and stood and they instructed the funds to come to them. They give you a red feather today, the next day they see you with a cap with cowries. Is that what our tradition, our titleship is all about? We are never satisfied. We are not satisfied with what we have. We want more. That's why some shares feel that they are bigger than others. But some of them compose themselves like the funds. Or some people feel that they have become super Wimbum culturalists. So let's encourage one another. Nobody is perfect. Nobody, even the funds, they don't have a knowledge of everything. I believe that if we notice some shortcomings anywhere and we politely approach those funds and speak to them, we will fix things. We don't just sit and insult on social media like it has been happening. That's not correct. That's wrong. To criticize is not a problem, but when you don't criticize constructively, that is where there's a problem. If I do something wrong, just you can text me, you can call me. That's the same way we can speak to our phones with respect, with dignity. We can suggest. I was in one of the forums where somebody said the phones don't do their job. I was like, what is the job description of a phone? That's the question I asked. And he was unable to give an answer. So there is a lot we can talk about these titles. Because even if you are a phone and you don't carry yourself with dignity, nobody will respect you. If you're a Maya, you don't carry yourself with a dignity, nobody will respect you. So let's dignify these institutions, these titles. Let's protect them jealously. Let's not try to, or let's not be sexist, trying to look down on other people because we're men or we're women. Thank you so much. Like I said, I was out and I just rushed back when the organizer called me. I yield.